Now, to discuss this is Roman Dibden, who's founder of BREAKOUT, which is a youth employment charity for 16 to 25-year-olds. It's based in Manchester, which is interesting because, of course, that's where Andy Burnham was the mayor up until recently. Roman, good evening to you. And can I just say happy birthday for yesterday?
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening. It's great to be here.
Good evening. Roman, you're barely out of being in that age bracket yourself, the 16 to 25-year-olds. What have you learned in your great wealth of experience of work, and what would have helped you?
I think it's really interesting we speak about the parallels. I am very much a proud Mancunian and I'm aware of some of the work that Andy's done in his time as mayor. And interestingly enough, I was actually excluded from education at 14, that very time that we're talking about young people making decisions that are going to affect their future. And I think, I welcome the ambition with this. My concern is if I take things back to when I was 14, I was a young carer for my mum that had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Nobody in the education system stopped to ask why I was skipping school. At that point, I wasn't ready to lean in and make a decision about my future. I just wanted to spend time with my mum. That was my main priority. So, I am a little bit concerned that, it's all well and good having these clear tracks, or certainly aspiring to try and get these clear tracks in place. But the large majority of young people that I speak to are desperately looking for a way back in. And I think the problem with this aspiration here is what happens when we recognize that life isn't linear. Something goes on in their personal life, they fall out of one of these tracks. Is there a clear enough route back in? What if life changes? And I think that ultimately is my big concern with this announcement. And then also capacity. I think sometimes these announcements are made and employers are left kind of scratching their heads of whose actual responsibility is this? Is it going to be more pain for the employers? Is it going to be more pain for the teachers that are on the ground? So, yeah, there's been a lot of noise today, as expected, but we're still all scratching our heads on some of the detail in these announcements.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like more of a wish list than a fully formed plan at this stage. But just referring back to you at 14, so you were excluded from school because of your attendance record, and your attendance record was bad because you were looking after your mum and nobody bothered to find out about that. When you wanted to go back to school, was that door then closed to you because you'd missed so much education?
Yeah, so I went back to a pupil referral unit, they call them, for my final 6 months of school to get my kind of core GCSEs under my belt. And those kind of environments are sometimes under-resourced. So I was kind of capped at doing the lower tier papers. But I met an incredible careers advisor, actually, Linda. The truth is, I hated my double art lesson on a Monday morning, so I used to go and drink.
That's my favourite.
We were opposites. We were opposites there. But I used to go and drink tea, eat biscuits with Linda, and she'd give me careers advice. And then ultimately, when I'd left education, I spent about 8 months kind of looking for work, and then Linda reached back out to me with an opportunity. And I remember what really struck a chord with me was feeling like someone was genuinely in my corner.
Yeah.
It felt like Linda didn't have to reach out. I was off her caseload in theory at that point, but she chose to remember me and cared enough. And I think, what young people need is people that genuinely care about them and root for them in their corner. And we've got to start asking the question why. It's been a big frustration throughout my life in certain situations that people haven't stopped to ask why. So that's a lot of the philosophy now with what I'm building with BREAKOUT, is to try and, meet young people at face value. And we do talk a lot about this kind of circuit break notion. I've seen Andy mention it quite a few times. Well, to be honest with you, there's some amazing educators, there's some amazing charities doing work across the country. We have to empower them and give them the tools and resource to be able to continue that great work.
So with somebody of 14, I mean, I was frustrated in my education. I was smart but not academic. I couldn't do exams. I could answer any questions you wanted me to answer. I would question the teachers because often they were, in my view, wrong, and they were. So I was that kind of smart, but I wasn't I wasn't good at exams. I would go, I still do when I see a form. I panic. So I wasn't very good at that. And I could have done with some really very different type of teaching, but it's not possible to provide education for every single child, is it? And that's the problem that we face, particularly within the comprehensive system, which I think is a terrible system. But I think that's the difficulty, isn't it? That they prefer it to be a sausage factory in a way because it's easier.
Yeah, and I think we have to try and steer away from that ease of use and start to think about actually what additional resources we can put in. In fact, you being here and sharing your story so openly about your struggles with education is so incredibly powerful. And I always urge everybody to kind of share those insights because actually, not everybody follows a linear pathway.
No.
And we've all got our own quirks. And actually, we should be championing that, especially in this age of AI where everything sounds very, very similar now. This is about empowering young people to recognize some of those skills, qualities, things that make them unique and be able to sort of champion that. Actually, a lot of what I find on the ground is whether, there's been a big shift change, to be honest with you, over the past decade. Historically.
Oh, he's frozen. Oh no, let's get him back. I think we've got a problem there with the line. We're just trying to reach out to Roman and get him back to discuss further. Oh, there you are. You're back again, Roman. Continue.
So, sorry.
Oh, that's right, it's not you. It's just technology. We need somebody who can switch something off and on again. So where were you? Sorry.
Yeah, so ultimately, a lot of the young people that I meet now, it's been a real big shift change. We're seeing more and more kind of young people at university or graduates being referred into the charity for support.
Yeah.
And a lot of the issues stem around that kind of lack of confidence and belief and supporting them to be able to articulate themselves. But it all starts, I often find that if we fixate on the huge problem that isn't going away anytime soon of the million plus unemployed, that's a big, daunting, kind of scary figure. But actually, I believe simply in the power of one. So we've been leveraging on the ground volunteers from industry, from community to act as mentors to these young people. And we're seeing some really, really great stories of that approach working and them feeling like someone genuinely does care. Because we all deserve someone in our corner.
What do the 14-year-olds of today want? I mean, some people are of the opinion that, they all want to be TikTok stars, they want to be footballers, they all want to be famous, they don't want to put the work in. There's grunt work that has to be done. You've got to do free work here and there, bits and pieces, and they're not prepared to do that. Is that a reality? Are these young people under the illusion that life is easy, that getting the job that they want is easy? Because that's something they've got to be dissuaded of, surely.
100%, and I think that's where curriculum and educators have got a big role to play. I absolutely don't agree that the young people are behaving or thinking like that. I think, they very quickly realise that it is difficult to enter the jobs market. Us as a small grassroots charity, we've got 4 young people that are joining us on placement over summer, so they're with us. We've just taken on a university student and she's volunteering with us again over summer because she's desperate to kind of get that experience and route into the non-profit sector. So, young people are willing to put themselves out there. But again, the language that we use is incredibly dangerous. Just because there's a small pot of young people per se that may be noisy on social media, that isn't representative of actually what I'm seeing on the ground.
The other thing is there's a lot of parents who will be pushing their children perhaps into university because they think that's the right thing to do. And I'm going to hold my hand up and say that I did that with my son. I'm such a flawed person, Roman. But I did think that I wanted him to have that experience. I wanted him to enjoy it. I wanted him to have that first step into independence. All of those things that university brings you, and it was a mistake. It should never have happened. He did not enjoy the experience, and he left owing money without a degree. So, and now he's doing absolutely brilliantly. I mean, he couldn't be doing better, right? Because he's found his thing. But a lot of parents will be like me and thinking, no, university is the right thing to push them into. How do we get to parents and say, actually think about the kid more, think about what they may want to do. They may want to do something more vocational.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, shout out to your son for kind of turning it around in
He really has.
on that
He's
kind of
doing
path now.
brilliantly. Yeah.
Amazing. So no, I think, look, I think charities like mine and all of us have got a responsibility to engage with the parents. I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, I do.
I think universities have got to be more transparent with destinations, because I think at the moment, nobody's really gripping hold of this crisis and taking accountability. It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
That isn't going to fix it. I know firsthand from deciding to bootstrap a charity that I wanted to apply a bit of pragmatism to this. The good news is we can all aspire to be that kind of 5 or 10% better. And I think that's all we're asking for here. What is that one action that each of us can take to start to open those doors up? And because for some young people, university is absolutely the best route for them. But for others, it's not. And it's about kind of giving them the space to explore that without that pressure of making the final decision at a certain point in their life.
I completely agree. And I honestly, I think that becomes with educating the parents as well about the fact that it's not the best or only route. What are these young people telling you specifically that they want to do? I mean, I think one of my complaints about this plan of Andy Burnham's is to say, we're going to apply the courses to what is wanted locally. Well, people might not want to be bricklayers, right? I mean, it's a great job and they earn decent money for it, but they may not want to do that. So is that flawed in narrowing the jobs just to the vocations of the cities or towns around the school?
100%, because I think, at any point we've got the ability to travel as well.
Yeah.
And I think actually we should be focusing on, like we said, what actually makes that young person tick. They might not know what career that's related to straight away, but actually, we could meet an amazing young person that has that potential to communicate really well and may choose to go on and work with young people later down the line. Or they might end up in the housing sector. I started out in the housing sector.
Yeah.
Part of my time was on site, and the real simplistic side of that is because I hated the classroom. So I thought I had to go and get a job on site because that's, otherwise I'd be chained to a desk. Well, the reality is the past decade or so, I've certainly not been chained to a desk, and I'm here, there, and then everywhere sort of thing. So I think it's about how can we broaden their horizons and open up spaces. What I would say with young people, sadly, is that, they find themselves in environments where they feel like they don't belong. And a lot of the work that we're doing at the moment on the ground is working with different employers that may have these sexy offices and doing a bit of a takeover to make these young people feel like, do you know what? You deserve a space here. You can make this feel like your own. And then allowing them to explore rather than saying, this is all that's there for you. This is what you've got to do and that's it and that's final. Because life really isn't like that. And actually, if we stop viewing life like that, we'll be able to build more resilience in this next generation.
I completely agree. And by the way, the media is one of the worst for diversity. Absolutely terrible, shocking. I think I'm possibly the only person to admit to not having a degree, but I'm probably the only person who doesn't have a media degree in this building. But there you go. I think it's shocking because it's not about having a degree, and I've proved that. It's about being interested enough to ask the questions, and it's about being interested enough to hear the answers. So try and open up the doors to some media companies as well, will you?
100%.
Yeah, and wrestle those, especially in Manchester. Got no excuse in Manchester. There's a huge media hub there. If you need any help, let me know. Just wanted to say that, Roman, I've got a message here saying your guest is, this is from Mark, says your guest is very impressive. When I listen to a young person with his head screwed on, it gives me some hope for the future. So there you go. You've already impacted. Roman, great speech. Good luck with your charity, BREAKOUT, charity based in Manchester. So thank you very much indeed for joining me. It's been fabulous talking to you. Roman Dibden there, founder of BREAKOUT, a youth employment charity for 16 to 25-year-olds in Manchester. Quick break, back in a sec.